We coming back fast from those breaks. What's up, everybody? My name is Omari Salisbury. You're watching the Morning Update show right here on the Africatown Media Network, broadcasting live from Black Dot Underground. We don't mention that enough, man. You know, Black Dot, very thankful to them for this amazing set that we have out here. Jumping right into it, we have a guest in the studio today. You know, becoming a regular around here. We might have to give you a fixture, a segment. We have to talk to the lawyers when you get off set. See how we can work it out.
Yeah.
But we have, I know you got a lot of titles and everything, but I would say community advocate.
Yes.
Mr. Willard Jimerson Jr. How are you today, sir?
Oh man, I'm blessed up and not messed up, man. You know, I'm feeling great. Absolutely.
You know, I'm going to have to add poet onto your title. Because, you know, every time you come over here, bro, you rhyming about something, man, which is dope. And you also bring a lot of positivity, which is complementary to our style here. And the last thing I would say is, like, man, you're matching the set.
Man, well, I had to make sure that I, stay bright as the ambience that you guys provide here.
All right.
Absolutely.
So yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision. They ruled in favor of Governor Inslee and Secretary Sinclair, and they ruled against Columbia Legal Services. And they basically said that the governor is not compelled to release any additional prisoners from the prison system. So I wanted to get your initial thoughts on that.
Yeah, that was the ruling from the Washington State Supreme Court decision as of yesterday of April 23rd, and left pretty much the remainder of decision making primarily in the hands of Governor Jay Inslee, but it pretty much de factos go back to the DLC Secretary Sinclair. So you pretty much is putting the solution or the problem of COVID-19 or trying to properly address it around this aspect in the hands of the individuals who really don't have a real idea of how to come to some reasonable conclusion or methodology of responding in a way that is accountable to everyone. For me, it's just representative or reflective of the fact that folks are not truly understanding how to respond or galvanize enough necessary resources, whether that's resources in terms of finances, resources in terms of intellectual prowess, where folks can come together and really put their heads down and come up with a reasonable and accountable solution to what's going on.
Right, and so the Governor Inslee's position was, the state's position is like, look, man, we've identified 900 of the most, either they qualified for different reasons. They was already set for release, they were old, or they were sick, of those 900. So what's your response to the people in the general public who might be like, hey man, the governor and Secretary Sinclair, they did their job. They released 900 people who they identified. Why do you want more out?
Well, the folks they have identified, which is great, that people are getting an opportunity to come home and re-enter society, and we're in the hopes to be successful in terms of the re-entry. Also, there's those stipulations. It moved up to about 1,100 plus that they have identified. Mm-hmm. There's actual lists of names and of individuals who are being released, who have started to be released. It's about 18 pages. You can go on the website and find that information, but also, most people don't understand is that the folks who have been selected to be released in regards or in highlight to what you have laid out is also those individuals who have a PRD or projected release date of June 29th of 2020. So these individuals and we're in the month of April, so there was already, so it's almost like a hocus pocus game, like we're releasing these guys in order to address, the issue of COVID-19, but most people don't understand that they already have to have a PRD, which is a projected release date of June 29th, or it was either on June 29th or before June 29th.
Right, and so what the governor did, you're saying the majority of the people who were released at 1,100, or they've just accelerated a release date that was already there?
Yes, so essentially they're just getting out about 60 days early.
All right, so I mean, the flip side though is for someone who's like, okay, well man, they've still, regardless if people were supposed to get out or, in a few months or not, they've still lowered the prison population by 1,100. Does that move? I'm assuming Columbia Legal Services didn't feel that the release of 1,100 prisoners was enough to create a safe environment in the prison?
Because the criteria that is being utilized, it's like you're utilizing a criteria that says we want to, keeping in mind the safety of the community, right, and making sure that just anyone does not be released back into the society. Those things are understandable. There should be measurable accounts, measurable steps that are taken prior to even these things. When we're talking about having a successful reentry, most folks don't understand it. We're saying we want to get those individuals who are of a low non-violent offenses. Majority of the time, those are the actual offenses that do recidivate. So what you really need to do is beef up the measure of reentry support around this population. You might be releasing some of the pressure off of the prison system, but now that pressure is going to be reflected back into the community, because most of them were already coming out. They're already stagnant. Most of them don't have a lot of resources. There are very minimum resources that are being offered even for them to reenter to society right now. Some are getting them, I think it's like a limited of 30 minutes of a phone that they're providing them. They're also, I believe, $100, maybe gate money, and then a voucher.
What would be gate money?
Gate money is like, usually you get out with $40. So the Department of Corrections will print out a cashier's check of $40, and you'll cash it, and then you're pretty much on your way. And
so hold on. So let me stop you right there. So are you saying that I think one thing I hear you saying is that's the general process. If somebody gets released, you get this, you get a voucher, you get your $40 and you're on your way.
But it's not a general process to get a voucher. Some people get a voucher, they have to apply, and then if they apply, most of them qualify, but that don't mean that they're going to receive
best
one.
Case scenario, you might get a voucher or something like that. Now, but what's the process, do you know, with the process with this 1,100 that's being released from the prison system? Is there, one, just because you had an early release date, is there a criteria where you have to have a place to go where somebody's going to accept you? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of the criteria is saying that they have to have an approved address. Mm-hmm. An approved address does not necessarily account that you have a place to go, right? Most people who want to get out and are very creative, and I've been in there, so I understand the process and I understand the need and the nature to want to return to society for whatever reason that people may have. Just to have an approved address means that you fit the criteria to be able to be released at that address. It does not necessarily mean that you there. That's say, for example, you're my cousin. I'm getting out. I'm like, hey, Omari, man, I need to have an approved address to get out. I know you're a homeowner. I don't even want to live there, bro, but can I use your address just to get out? And you be like, okay, yes. And so you give me your address. I give it to my counselor. They'll check it. They say, hey, it's good to go. They'll release me after they give you a phone call and you say, yeah, he can come. And then when I get released, I just report to my CCO that I'm homeless because I'm not staying at that address. All I did was just utilize the address in order to be released. So that's the functionality of the process of saying, if you have an established address that you could be released to, then you could be released. And most people don't have one. That's why they're providing them with vouchers, the housing vouchers. But the housing voucher, there's also a caveat or a catch to the housing voucher as well, meaning that it's only for transitional living. And most transitional spaces at this particular time are not accepting new people into those spaces, just because of the response to COVID-19.
Right. We're going to take a quick break real quick. When we come back, I want to talk to you about what else is going on, like if you've talked to people who've been released and all these things. You're watching the Morning Update Show right here on the Africatown Media Network.
I was at the grand opening of the Liberty Bank building, and I just saw so many folks there who had dreams and aspirations of something like that happening again in our community, where once that was the norm, we developed, we build, we created, and now to have to say we got to come back and do it again, this is just the first time, was inspiring to me. I think it also I think Africatown has created a model that others can follow, but I also think that you guys have created, just an energy around the community of folks that are now believing that we can, hold on to it. We're not done. It's not over. The game ain't over. And sometimes, when you look at the clock, I'm playing sports, you're down 21 points in the first quarter. You can either start working harder to get back in it, or you can shut it down and say it's over. Well, you guys have let us know that the game's not over. It's not over.
welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. In the studio today with us, we have Mr. Willard Jimerson Jr. And now we were just talking about, one, we started off with the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, the 5-4 ruling in favor of Governor Inslee and Secretary Sinclair, saying that additional prisoners need to stay in prison. But I want to talk to you about the 1,100 that they were forced to release with the previous lawsuit. Do you know, have they started releasing them? Do you know anybody on that list? Have they gotten out? And then, like, what's the getting out process? Is anybody tested or anything like that?
I am not aware of anybody being tested or screened prior to their being released. And I believe folks have been starting to be released this week. Slowly, they've been trickling individuals out of the penal institutions back into society. But I have not personally had a conversation with anyone who have qualified or fit the profile of what the qualifications may look like to be reentered back into society underneath these particular conditions. So but we have, and when I mean we, there's a collective body of us who have a raised concern, a raised interest around providing the resources in terms of reentry, successful reentry for some of these guys, because we understand that those measures are not really being invested in. And so we have been coming together and just looking at different ways we can place resources together, whether it's coming right now, it look like the onus is going to be majority on the community on which these individuals are returning to, but also trying to place some pressure back on the Department of Corrections, because what most folks don't know, that to house a person while they're incarcerated in the Department of Corrections, it's about $37,841, absolutely, annually. And that's for an individual who does not have any like medical concerns. If you have any medical issues, then obviously the annual cost goes up. But what happens is if that person is being released, that $37,841 does just not disappear. So how do we reinvest those resources that can be responsive to the need of providing more successful reentry? So it's like, does that money just get swallowed up into the system and it gets divided up amongst different whoever and whenever and however they see fit? That money is still there, especially if we're talking about an admittance of or expediting the early release. Then that $37,000 or almost $38,000 need to be reshifted, reallocated when we're talking about a successful reentry for some of these individuals.
Right. And for people that you've talked to that are still incarcerated, that are still locked up, what is the feedback that you're getting now as far as the conditions in the prisons? Because according to Governor Inslee and Secretary Sinclair, they've taken what they've said are very big steps to be able to provide a safe environment. They also, in the last big press conference, or maybe two press conferences ago, said that a lot of the inmates, they didn't want to go with the flow as far as the safety protocols that DOC laid out.
Well, that's an issue when you say safety protocols that someone else has laid out with you and did not call you to the table to look at what those protocols or procedures or best practices may be, especially for individuals who have to live in that environment, to kind of get some insight on what that could look like, to have a collaborative viewpoint. But just in a recent conversation I had with some folks who called me just yesterday who are still incarcerated, I asked them what have been the improved conditions so far around the response around some of these, nonviolent or non-threatening demonstrations that have been taking place in regard to their safety. And majority of them said, "Oh, they're starting to give us some PPE, some personal protection equipment. They're allowing us to have gloves now, but we're pretty much still living in the same conditions. We're still, living on top of each other. Much it has not changed, other than the fact that they're now offering the movie nights at 6 o'clock. They get a movie night, and then they're offering them, I believe, free popcorn to go with the movie, and then I believe some of them was getting offered McDonald's and things of that nature. But it has not really addressed the conditions around the threat of COVID-19.
Right. But before we get out of here, before I let you go, I'm still working. I'm on the clock, man. Before I let you go, I think that it's important on the other side of this issue, and I keep bringing this up, you know what I'm saying, is that there's although black people are disproportionate in the prison system, you also have a disproportionate number of black victims.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, who are out here. And speaking of from the victim side and things like that, man, why should somebody really care? You know, if the guys in the prison, you know what I'm saying, if they don't have a proper distancing or if they don't have the right PPE or anything else, especially people who have been victimized by somebody who might be in Monroe or Walla Walla. You know, why should somebody care if the prisoners don't have all the proper safety things?
I definitely can understand there's individuals out there who have a certain mind frame around this particular population, but what they need to be I guess say aware of is that what is not contained and not controlled can actually be spread. And once again, highlighting that this population is actually making and creating the personal protection equipment, the surgical gowns that the surgeons are using in the process to treat patients in hospitals. They're also making the personal protection, the mask and things of that nature. So once again, if they're not being treated and they're not given the proper procedures of social distancing and meeting the need around trying to reduce the spread of COVID-19, there's an opportunity for that to be spread here. And once again, the population that a majority of people are focusing on in terms of releasing are already having contact with the community. If they're at a minimum facility, they're working inside the communities, and this is an issue that could be spread. You just seen in just this last week, a warden in the state of Louisiana lost their life, and also the medical director to COVID-19. So these things can be spread, and it is non-discriminatory.
Well, at the Tyson chicken plant in Pasco, over 100 employees have COVID, and they have to shut the plant because it's 1,400 employees. I know. I don't know what their working conditions are there at the chicken plant, but I mean, it's people in a close environment. Anytime people are in a close environment, then you know it's something that has to be looked at, and that's why a lot of these food processing plants have been closing across the country. Willard, real quick before we go, man, how can people get up with you?
Man, they can hit me up at, W. Jimerson Jr., at UnitedBetterThinking.org. They can hit me up on, Facebook, Willard Jimerson Jr., Instagram, Inspirational Will. I'm out here, man, in the community. My phone number for the public is 425-902-7755. So if they have any interest or any need to kind of iron out the wrinkles around these kind of social justice or issues, hit me up and see how we can best align, our partnership in these regards.
There it is. All right, Willard Jimerson Jr., you heard him right here. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you taking the time to update us. I'm sure, like I said, I like to come on here. You always got a sense of realness about you, man.
Yeah,
every time you come on the set.